Thanks very much for the introduction, Kevin, and good morning, everybody. If you can understand my Spanish with a Northern Ireland accent, bienvenidos. 4 years ago, I travelled to Japan and sat as a delegate in Kyoto to be inspired, encouraged, and educated. I consider it to be a great privilege to be speaking to you all this morning, though to be honest, it's a little bit daunting. I have nothing to disclose in this talk, except I have no graphs or data. Now, when I heard that this Congress was taking place in Barcelona, I was really looking forward to visiting. This city is full of two things that I absolutely love, and Kevin mentioned one, which is art, and the other one is architecture. And perhaps the most iconic of all the architectural buildings has to be this place, the Sagrada Familia. It's a complex and intricate building. It has been shaped by the vision of one man, Antoni, Gaudi, an absolute genius architect. It's been worked on for a long time by many master craftsmen, and each person's experience when they go inside is individual and unique. As I was preparing this talk over many months, it struck me that it was very similar to Parkinson's. This is also complex and intricate, as you've heard this morning. It was described from the observation of one man, James Parkinson. It has been studied for a long time by many master scientists and clinicians, and everybody's personal experience is unique. I'm going to draw on these parallels throughout. The focus of this talk is the relevance of subtypes, but before considering how they are relevant, I first want to think about why they are relevant. I don't imagine anyone here in this room forgets the day they received their diagnosis. We may not remember the exact date or the time, but few of us forget the impact of those words, it's Parkinson's, and how they were delivered. I suspect, like me, you had many questions, like, why has this happened to me? What caused it? What can I expect in the future? Is there anything I can do to change this? The first way subtypes are relevant to those of us living with Parkinson is in seeking to find the answers to questions like these. We may be connected by the common label of Parkinson's, but looking around this conference today, we see that different people have different symptoms with different degrees of severity. Some of us shake, some are stiff, some have balance and walking problems. And that's not to mention the non-motor symptoms that aren't seen. Some of us are in pain, some apathetic, some with constipation, some with cognitive problems, and some with depression and anxiety, to name a few. I've been sitting this morning trying to time my toilet break because I was drinking a lot of water prior to coming on stage. The second way subtypes are relevant is understanding these many differences. Finally, subtypes are relevant to how we view Parkinson's itself. We currently find ourselves entering into unknown territory. Historically, it has been considered as a single disease or condition, but subtypes are making us rethink that there may be several conditions under this broad umbrella term. This is implication not only for us, but also for education and care provision. If you visited the Sagrada Familia, you would have been struck by two things when you walked in. Firstly, the sheer height of the building, and secondly, the impact of the light shining through the many stained glass windows. These windows act as a portal to illuminate the interior. In a similar way, subtypes are beginning to help illuminate our understanding of Parkinson's. but the work is in progress, and even the way subtypes are defined is evolving. For this reason, before we consider how subtypes are relevant, I think it's helpful to briefly describe how subtypes have been defined to date. If you look carefully at the glass in this window, you will see that each one is individually named and separate. And that is, in a sense, how the first subtypes were defined. It was by clinical observation and demographics. Each petal shape seen here can represent a different subtype, like age, early onset or young onset for people who have been diagnosed less than 50, and late onset for people who've been diagnosed over 70. They could represent individual motor symptoms, whether you're tremor dominant or tremor non-dominant. And they could also represent all the individual non-motor symptoms that I mentioned earlier. The second way subtypes have been defined involves data clusters. Here, different parameters are grouped together to look for statistical patterns that might inform understanding of a cause or a course. Many different combinations have been published, but they're still based on clinical observation, which are subjective and often not measurable. Furthermore, they can change over time. The final way research has begun to define subtypes is by looking inside us at our biomarkers in our brains, our CSF, our blood, our skin, and at our genetic profile, like you've heard already this morning. This work is slowly building up a different picture, a broader picture, like we see in these windows. It's not so much considering the individual, but looks at patterns of biomarkers across everyone, and unlike data clusters, they are objective and quantifiable. So we've considered why subtypes are important and how they are defined, but before we consider how they are relevant, I want to acknowledge the difficulty of facing an uncertain path. As a patient living with Parkinson's, person living with Parkinson's this morning, you may feel frustrated that no one can give you concrete answers. You may feel cynical because you've been diagnosed many years and the information keeps changing. You may feel deflated because scientific progress doesn't seem to translate to your everyday experiences. You may feel confused because you only have some pieces of the jigsaw and you can't see the whole picture. But don't lose hope. It's okay to feel like this. We all do at different stages. Talk through your fears and anxiety and keep engaging with your support networks, your healthcare team and therapists, as they will help you find the light when it feels dark. As we consider the practicalities of how subtypes are relevant for us as individuals, I find it helpful to think about it in three ways. What is certain, what is probable, and what is possible. What is certain is that there are more questions than answers when it comes to subtypes. There's no clear consensus on the best way to define Parkinson's subtypes, and currently no single parameter can be used to define a disease that is so complex and intricate. But what is equally certain is that things will change for you as an individual and for us as a community in our knowledge and understanding. However, it's going to take time. We need to be patient. We need to be flexible and adaptable. We need to be realistic in our expectations. And while we must keep moving forward we equally need to make sure we don't miss today in pursuit of tomorrow. So what is probable? It is probable, like you've heard this morning, that subtyping will lead to greater precision medicine. We will be able to more effectively target treatment and interventions as we better understand the etiology. What is also probable is that subtyping will increasingly enable personalised medicine to develop where care plans can be targeted to individual needs. This will help us make the necessary changes to manage our own Parkinson's better on a daily basis. In regards to progression, it is probable that the past rate of progression tends to predict the future rate of progression. What is also probable is our understanding of Parkinson's as a multi-system condition will further expand. Data clusters have already indicated that in regards to progression, we need to consider the non-motor symptoms and the non-motor burden of diagnosis as much as the motor symptoms. Finally, what is probable, and perhaps most important, is that subtyping has already informed choices that you've made in your care, whether you've been aware of it or not, and it is likely to continue to do so. We shall now briefly consider some of the subtypes, how subtypes can influence choices that we make. For example, if you're a rigid subtype, choosing early physio intervention can reduce the fear of falling and proactively stop them from happening. If you're tremor dominant and you aren't responsive to dopamine medication and it's affecting the quality of your life, other options may be available, one of which may be DBS. What about age? One example of how age as a subtype can influence choices is bone health. Females and those over 50 are more likely to have plenty of their bones, and because those with Parkinson's are prone to falls, proactively looking after your bone strength is important to prevent fractures. You can discuss this at your next neurology appointment, or go to the Parkinson's UK stand at booth 1001 during the conference, and they'll show you the information that they've been working on over the past few years. Age will also influence lifestyle choices that you make. In early onset, these will include decisions about work and family planning. If you're in your late 50s or early 60s, do you retire or keep working? If you're over 70, you'll already have retired, but what about your bucket list? Finally, no-motor subtypes affect choices depending on the neurotransmitter pathway that's involved. If you have episodes of drowsiness or have a strong desire to fall asleep constantly, this can have implications for your medication planning. This can also impact your job depending on what it involves and your ability to drive. Adjustments may need to be made and proactive discussion with your healthcare team about managing your fatigue. If you have symptoms affecting your autonomic nervous system, you will make decisions influenced by those. Keeping yourself hydrated, eating a healthy diet, or being prescribed medication to get your bowels moving regularly will not only help with constipation, but it will also help with your absorption of your levodopa. If you have cognitive problems, and there's evidence of early cognitive decline, which is more common, as you've heard this morning, in late onset Parkinson's, the decisions that you make may be different to someone who does not. So we've considered what is certain and what is probable, but perhaps the most important thing to consider is what is possible. It is important to leave here today understanding that change is possible, that amongst the many things we cannot control, there are some things that we can. The best way to illustrate it is like this. As people living with Parkinson's, we should look outwards more and not inwards, and realise we can still add value in whatever situation we're in. No matter what subtype you are, it's important to use the skills that you have and never let anybody tell you that you're not good enough. That's why people are drawn to each other, by music, by art, by dance, by sport, by recording podcasts. Not only are they living with Parkinson's, they're using their skills to develop connections with another layer of support. It doesn't matter to them what subtype you are or you aren't. We should be united in encouraging those coming behind us, those beside us, and those in front of us about making healthy lifestyle choices and light the way for them. We can positively influence the way we live with it. As someone once said, there's an old treatment that has been repurposed. It's called exercise. One day I'm certain that the evidence will confirm and clarify what type of exercise we need to do and how much it slows down progression. But in the meantime, keep doing what you're doing and keep social. We also talk about raising awareness globally. Yes, that's important, and that's what this conference is about. But it's also important to educate and learn from those around us who matter every day. The people in your house, your family, your work colleagues, and others in your support network. It has to be a two-way street, as they can help you understand the impact your Parkinson's has on them. So what will subtypes mean in the future? Well, we need to go back to Gaudi. We need to look and learn from him. He challenged the architectural conventions of his time. He had his own methodology. He pushed the boundaries, and he will have produced a never-before-seen building. But Gaudi was at a crossroads many times, and he changed the way La Sagrada Familia was designed multiple times over many years. As I've said, it's important to say it's not what Parkinson's will look like in the future, but what will Parkinson's diseases look like? And we're starting to understand more and more about that. The literature describes it like a mountain range with different peaks, each peak representing a different subtype or a different Parkinson's disease. But as we're in Barcelona, I think it's only fitting to think of it not as the peaks in a mountain range, but as the tallest towers in La Sagrada Familia. But the tallest towers are not finished. The work isn't complete. As a result, we can only climb so far, but we aren't stopping there. You've already heard this morning that researchers have started to look beyond the brain. They're looking at our genes, our lipids, our metabolites, deep in our cells. They're building up a more detailed picture like never before. As more information is gathered, the subtypes will be further defined, and new ones may even emerge. But we have an important role in that, and we need to be willing to engage, if not for us, but for the people coming behind us. If the researchers want to know your genetic profile, consider letting them. If they want to swab from your skin, consider letting them. If they want to image your brain, consider letting them. Why? Because although your information may seem insignificant to you, it's an important contribution in the bigger picture. So to the people with Parkinson's here this morning, in this wonderful city, I say this: the answer lies within us. So continue to work together with the scientific community as they climb the towers beside us. To the researchers, I say keep going like never before. Like Gaudi challenged the norm in the past, it's time for you to challenge the way it's always been done. Innovate like he did. Don't be afraid to think and do things differently. Think like an architect. Yes, there's work to be done. Yes, it will be tough. Yes, there will be more trials to achieve their primary outcome. But one day the subtypes will be truly defined. The cause or the causes will be known. The clinical trials will have succeeded. That elusive treatment that is specific to you will be developed, which slows it down. But the question is, how long is that going to take? Gaudi famously said that his client wasn't in a hurry. But we are.